Exactly right. Well, thanks very much for joining us, Steph. So the joy I get out of meeting people in this field is almost like each time it happens, I feel like I've got a friend
I
in a
know.
group. It's quite hard to build friends because you're up against it. This world of persistent pain's got lots of challenges. The patients, and it's not their
Holy cow.
fault. Clinicians, it's not their fault. It just feels like small voices amongst a big tidal wave of pain. So pleasure to kind of some time with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I'd just
Yeah.
like to hopefully cover your story in this process, but we'll maybe work backwards because you work in this field. So just tell people what you currently do.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, Stefanie Boyer. I'm the founder of Encove Health, where I specialize in at-home virtual pain recovery for women, based on all of these, these concepts that we'll get into today. But it was really created from my own personal journey, being in pain for a really long time and recovering, and then going on to be a service provider. And then just, like you said, like I probably could have chosen an easier profession. Pain is gosh, it's so complex in what we're learning about pain and also as we're serving people. And but I just feel like you, just so excited when I get to meet someone that gets to, we get to nerd out on pain science and like all of the all of the many pieces that surround this really important work. So, anyways, that's me. Thanks for having me.
How do you currently deliver what you understand now? What does that look like for
Yeah, I
patients?
mean, honestly, it depends on the person, right? And I take a lot of pride in that I offer bespoke offerings, right? But generally, I work with people one on one as a pain coach, where I work either in parallel with their healthcare team or as a standalone intervention. This stuff works either way. I also have group programs, like a 12, our signature program is a 12-week program where we're really diving in and taking the time, right? I think that's one of the biggest things too in this field is that it takes a lot of time to uncover all these rocks. It's not perfect, and we're dealing with imperfect service providers and imperfect humans, right? And so we have to find that trial and error, that connection point that can really be a turning point for someone, and that takes time. So I've created a 12-week program to do that. I've have a 6-week self-paced program, which is largely educational, because as we know, that's a foundational piece of pain recovery. That also includes some group stuff. Yeah, like I also do community engagement events. I have some local PTs that we go out and have some just local events for women. So sometimes corporations hire me to speak about this. This impacts us all as an employer. This really, when we have folks that are in pain and silently suffering, like this can also really turn turn around the environment there. So yeah, it really depends on all of
It,
that to say it really depends.
well, and that's good because the human condition means that we're all vulnerable to this. Even though they think we might not be, everybody's vulnerable to it, and it could be predictable in subgroups. I suppose you probably should look at some research now and say they are destined to get it, almost predetermined. Maybe not
Right.
everybody, but there's strong correlations, isn't there, with certain subgroups, and we might find ourselves in them sometimes, which is fascinating. But the beauty is that the recovery is possible for everyone, independent of recovering from
Absolutely.
the condition itself. How did you, how did you kind of translate that understanding from where you were originally? Because you've shifted from patient to practitioner, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's been a long road, and I'll try to try to sum it up. It's happened over the course of almost 12 years. My evolution of being a person that couldn't get off the couch. I went from, in a day, I went from being a motivated, healthy athlete, someone in my 20s to like being on the couch for years, debilitating pain. Um, had the classic journey that I'm sure, many people do. You see the doctor, you get the imaging, you go to PT, you get massage, you do all the supplements, you do all the stuff that you're supposed to do, and just nothing was working for me. And one of the biggest experiences I remember of that time is not being believed. Now, if I look back at that time, gosh, there were so many things around that, right? So I thought it was the dishwasher that broke my back, or like hurt my hip and my back. But I had lost my job. I had gone through a major relationship breakup. I had lost my cat, and you look at those things and you understand about how those are major contributors to somebody's experience for pain. Like, it all makes sense now. But at the time, I felt isolated. I was depressed. I was alone. I couldn't find a solution. And yeah, someone had said, like, hey, check out this manual therapist. But I'm not here to share like a modality or necessarily that makes the difference, because as we know, that's hyper dependent on the person. But for me, what made the difference is that it was a manual therapist that was educated in pain science that like really made the difference. And so I was in corporate consulting, and I had such a profound experience physically and emotionally in my healing journey of being held, and unwinding my own journey, um, after literal years on the couch, that I decided, like, hey, I have to do this profession. And so then I shifted into manual therapy. I still practice I'm a highly specialized, we call structural integration. But I went down that track of like, ooh, this is something, this is the thing. But I hadn't really, like, pain science hadn't really sunk in. Like, I knew that there was more to rehabilitating from pain than just treating the tissue, but I hadn't put all of those pieces together yet. I think 5 years into my practice, I was like, I'm getting all of this advanced education. Why are these techniques not working 100% of the time? And that's where I just really, really went deep. Got into pain science. I started collaborating on behalf of my patients with their other healthcare providers. And oh my gosh, like the world opened up. I had way more dependable results when I was taking a collaborative approach, and I was supporting people through this complex pain science
Mm.
journey and recovery. So I stopped serving people in like a come here and I'll fix your frozen shoulder. It was a much different collaborative thing. And also, like you said, it's not your fault that you're in pain, but now that you know, it is your responsibility. So how can we partner to work towards recovery? And then, yeah, then just that's where I've been the last 11 plus years. And then the past 3 years, I've just really honed in my virtual offering where I can help people so much more and make more of an impact virtually as well as in person if they're local. But I work with people all over. So yeah, that's the long-winded
Yeah, no, it's
version.
fantastic. It is. It's fantastic how you step through professions and you kind of take the wins and the losses, and then you kind of build upon it, don't you? And it's not none of it's good or bad. It's all just all right. This makes sense now. You can't phone all those patients up that you saw 5 years ago and say, "Do you mind
I
coming back?"
know. Yeah, I know.
You just have to
If we
roll
would
with
have
the next
known.
one. So, can I just take you back to that moment?
Yeah.
How did it manifest that you were high functioning, you were athletic, you're probably very driven, or you are very driven, but maybe it kind of tipped into an unhealthy state because of the other stuff going on. How did it manifest physically for you?
Yeah, I mean, in that moment I had connected it to the dishwasher, but I was like loading the dishwasher, I was bending over, right? Which will correct. We know that that's not the thing, but um I stood up, and from then my lower back and hips were we're toast. So constant burning pain, twisting was out of the question, or I felt that twisting was, like super unsafe. um, I felt like I couldn't walk uphill. I couldn't walk on a flat surface. I couldn't sit. I was uncomfortable laying in bed. I had to lay like on a hard surface, but propped up with a million pillows. So that's like physically what was manifesting. Obviously, emotionally, I talked a little bit about that, but emotionally, to have, I see this so much working with people, but my identity was like, I was working out all the time. I was actually training for my first half marathon. I was able to swing kettlebells, really a lot of weight. And I felt really strong and safe in my body. And to have that identity of essentially like college athlete, driven person to like, now I'm unemployed. I can't get off the couch. I can't have a relationship. Can't take care of my cat. Like all the things. It was debilitating in multiple ways, right? Like all of the spheres.
Mm. You were
Felt them
superwoman.
deeply.
You were superwoman, really, weren't you? There.
Well, I mean that's what I tell people, but no, I'm just kidding.
No, but you're hitting performance on lots of levels, aren't you? You know.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I had the typical pain personality, right? Of like type A, driven, athletic, do all the things, have the to-do list, perfectionist. Like, yeah, that's I'm still recovering from
Yeah, but
some
those
of those
those
pieces.
I don't know how you frame it with people, but that's a skill set that you should be able to dip into anytime you choose without compulsion.
Yeah, I mean, that's, when we're talking about these things that are essentially like coping mechanisms that I had developed through life, I'm really thankful for them. I'm able to say like, hey, I can draw on that, but I want the ability to have homeostasis. I don't want to live constantly in this space of I have to be perfect. I have to get the job. I have, and that pressure, as we know, can lead to a lot of things, but one of them being the manifestation of chronic pain.
Mm.
Yeah.
Where do you sit in terms of your philosophy? Lots of people look forward, like Alan Gordon's work is kind of from this point onwards, go forwards. Georgie Oldfield, the Serpa Group, likes to kind of consider the stuff from the past and journal and explore. Maybe PPDA, I think it's called Symptomatic Me now. It's the American Pathophysiological Disorders
Yeah.
Association. They
Yeah.
kind of explore
Yeah.
backwards. So there's a kind of to and fro. Mine's a behavior change approach that I kind of just see it as behavior change. So it's from this point going forward. Where do you sit?
Yeah.
Do you like to explore the past or not?
Honestly, I offer both roads, and I feel like that's important because it is patient led. And what's key, I feel like, for behavior change, even though, we can talk about relationships or understanding dopamine or pain science or being generally healthy or the nervous system or any of those things. But if someone's not interested in exploring that, it's not going to land after I'm gone. And so that can lead towards a regression of, somebody goes through the program, has really great results, and then regress because they were choosing to work on things that weren't meaningful to them. So we set value based goals. And part of that is like, like for example, expressive writing is a huge piece of the program, but it's optional. So somebody, I am a integrative somatic trauma coach also, and so I believe that we at least need to nod to the past, and it is part of what has brought this person in front of me. But if they're not willing to look at it yet, I'm not going to push it. So we have expressive writing, we have journaling. I'm forgetting there's a specific way of journaling for pain that's from a trauma. What is his name? Gosh, I'm forgetting. But it is like intensive journaling where you go to like the most traumatic um Penny Baker.
Oh, yeah, James
Maybe it's
Pennymaker. James
yeah.
Pennymaker.
Yeah. And so like that's a really intense way of journaling. There's other lighter versions. And then if someone's not interested at all, then then that's not gonna land. So yeah, that's how I approach it.
Yeah.
If someone's interested, I can hold the space for it and we go there deep. If
Mm.
someone's not interested, then it's not going to land for them. I'm not going to be able to push it.
How did you feel on your recovery? Where did you need to kind of explore?
Um, that's a great question. I don't think that I knew, like a lot of people, like I didn't know. I went to this session being like, fix me, work on my psoas, work on my back, do all the things. And then when she was bringing up these things, and there were just so many emotions coming up of like, I'm so angry. I'm so angry at this whole process and this whole situation. I didn't know that it was such a imperative part to it. Now, would I have searched that out? No, but the key was I was open. I was open to receiving. And I think that's like, when I'm choosing to work with someone, it's important that we're a good fit for each other. And that's what I require is like a little bit of openness, a nugget of curiosity. Um, because obviously, as people in pain, like we don't know what we don't know. Um, so yeah, that's what I needed. I didn't know that it would require so much deep digging, but I was
Yeah.
ready for it. I was open. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good that you're open, and that's like a psychological flexibility that represents the moment of change, doesn't it? So you've changed before you've changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, when you now work with people and you feel you're a very obviously not a good fit for everybody, but you present the program really for women. That's interesting to me because obviously I'm a male, and there's certain subjects and subsets of patients that really you present the threat by being representative of something in the past anyway, don't you?
Very well could
So,
be.
what was your reasoning behind I present this for women?
I mean, largely, I can speak right to that condition, right? Like I wish that I would have been supported in this way. So I felt like it would be unethical for me to go through the world and have stumbled across this and not share it. And I feel that experience so deeply. Like I just get really upset and I'm just passionate about supporting women in the way that I wish I would have been supported because that was my journey. But I also didn't know that women experience the pain journey, the pain care system differently. I didn't have this understanding of like, wow, there's a lot of other women that are gaslit through this experience that aren't listened to, that do require a different way of being. I mean, on one hand, it's just a very human level. Like, no one should go to the doctor, PT, massage therapist, blah, 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 whatever your chosen healthcare journey is, and hear like, well, you need to manage your stress more, it's in your head, drink more water or get more sleep. Like if I hear that one more time, but that's wrong for anyone. It's very dismissive. So if that's anyone listening to this, that's your healthcare person, like that's not okay. But upon finding out that women experience more medical gaslighting than men, um, I knew that I had to provide this. And then the third thing is like I'm a woman that's had babies, so even that journey of being a woman through the pain care, the healthcare system in the US. But additionally, like to have your body shift and change, I had two very large babies. So even though I recovered from that original injury that I shared, like there's been lots of other stuff to work on in the past 12 years that includes, pelvic floor, just like understanding my body way more. And so that's also where I felt like I could weave all these together and create a program that that is necessary for women navigating any chronic pain
Do you
journey.
find that although your programs or your interventions or your time or the space you hold for people helps people recover, do you feel as if it also provides a kind of a liberating foundation to kind of take on whatever else comes in life?
I mean, without getting too wishy-washy, like yes, I definitely feel that um, what we learn and what we uncover together in the pain science in the pain program, we call it the Unbound Life. It really is applicable to literally everything, like relationships, work, parenting. There is a piece at the end that's even like how to choose your healthcare provider. These are some really important things that women need to feel comfortable, to be empowered to choose, and that applies to literally everything, not even out of pain. I was working with someone the other day, and we were in person, and we were working on some inner narratives around pain, and she's like, gosh, I don't think that I would have even thought that I could say no. What a powerful lesson that is transferable to literally every part of life. But that was profound for her, to draw boundaries, and that absolutely is applicable to her pain recovery journey. But like, insert said field or said thing, and that's an important thing that we as women need to learn, right?
Mm.
As we navigate. Yeah.
Do you find, are you familiar with Gabor Mate? You've done like some trauma work. So Gabor Mate's his literature kind of points to relationships with women and a certain conditions. Do you see a range of conditions classically that is it very random, or do you see trends?
I mean, it could just be like who I'm attracting,
Hmm.
right? But I tend to interestingly attract a lot of like pelvic floor, psoas, SI joint stuff. There's certainly a higher manifestation of women that suffer from sacroiliac joint pain, but a lot of frozen shoulder too, right? A lot of just like there's guarding and there's holding and there's carrying so much. So um I've seen a lot of like nerve stuff in the face, some frozen shoulder, but then I also get to just like lower back and migraines. Like it sucks. And then a couple foot. I've had a lot of foot stuff, I guess, in the past couple of years, which interestingly, I have foot stuff too. So it's like, it's always like a mirror when you're working. Like I'm also here navigating still my journey with my body, and I'm attracting the people that that have the same thing.
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right saying it's a mirror. You may, I won't say the profile. I won't say the profile of patients that I feel challenged by, right? But I've been getting a lot of them,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Isn't that interesting?
I'm doing well, doing really well with them, right? Well with them well with me. Whatever it is, it's a positive interaction. But it's the last one I'd have on my list of who would I want to come through the top.
Right. Right. I mean, yeah, I feel you. It is, but that is the beauty of it too, right? Like we are people that don't know everything about pain or about the human condition, and we are navigating it also alongside with this person. And that's why fit is so important. Uh, but yeah, it's interesting where I'm like, oh, I got another foot, or I got another frozen shoulder, or a certain personality profile. Yeah.
Yeah, funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah.
I've made a note of something else I want to ask you. So, it's really interesting listening to you, talking to you. What are your overall thoughts on where this is going? We're in different continents, so I'm in Europe, you're in America, and there's a bit of a momentum in the UK. What's this landscape like over where you work and live? Are you a teeny tiny minority?
Oh, yes. Like I referred to earlier, like I do feel like a minority. I do feel like I probably could have chosen a easier profession, right? Um, I present to pain departments in hospitals, and I connect with digital health CEOs that are in this field. And if I could count, what's that saying? If I had a dime for every time I heard somebody say, like, wow, what you're offering is really cool. I've never heard or seen that. And I'm like, wow, it makes so much sense to me. It is like the missing, it's the keystone. It is like the major gap that
Mm.
is occurring. I can't change the healthcare system, but this is like a easy fills the gap thing. And I've met some other pain coaches. I don't meet very many people that are just for women. I certainly don't meet many people that have a background as a service provider and a coach, and have a personal journey with pain. Um, yeah, so I don't. That's why it's so nice to talk to you. I don't have a lot of folks that do this same work, which
Mm.
on one hand is great, like essentially have zero competition. On the other hand, it causes me to have to break down a lot of walls and barriers, before someone could be like, oh, I get it. Like, I really get why having a guide alongside that medical appointment journey, or in collaboration, or even like in isolation, is a key part of pain recovery. We just don't see people recover from pain like by themselves.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Often,
So what's
oh,
that?
sorry, often that advocacy that you're offering, I think that's really valuable because sometimes I'll say to patients, "Oh, only come once you've had everything done and it's finished. Then decide, get everything tested you wanted to get tested medically. But if
Sure.
they are
Yeah.
working with you in that interim stage where they're still waiting for this test and that test and the other test, that advocacy you're offering really is just it's a logical second guess. Because if you left you alone with those thoughts of waiting for that scan, or you get the scan results and you have to wait for 10 days revisiting the misinterpretation that's often given to it or any other tests, that can be like a real driver of the problem that you want to try and overcome in
Yeah.
the first place. So I suppose that's a helpful nudge in the right direction if someone's maybe feeling off track with classic medical interventions.
Yeah, and I think I mean, here, my experience, like getting imaging, and then I may be able to talk to my doctor to get that interpreted, or maybe not. Either way is damaging, where I have to read the report and be like, what does that mean? Or, hear from a doctor like surgery is your only option. Um, and so, as we know, like both of those are damaging in and of itself. And I think about my experience, and then I also see people struggle. Where do they go at night? Right? Like, what is happening when all of the rumination, the catastrophizing is like, it's all encompassing, because pain is such a it's a lived experience, right? It touches everything. And so you're not able to pick up your kids. Your intimacy with your partner is compromised. You're not able to do your workouts. You're not able to sleep, like all of those things. What do? You go to the internet, and you go to a Facebook group, a support group of people that, like, I was in one, well, I am in a couple, just to see like how people are navigating. And I feel like it's pretty unsafe. It's unregulated. It's a lot of misinformation, and it's a lot of people that are struggling altogether. So while groups are a key part of pain recovery, that social connection, or having a robust social map is important. Um, I Being in those groups where it's like over 70,000 people around the world saying some pretty horrible things about maybe end of life, or asking for anyone to interpret their medical like their imaging or their medical reports. Like, it's bananas. And so that's also why I felt like not only going through a pain program is important. A lot of what I do is support people at home. That I feel like is where pain recovery actually happens. It's not like in class, or necessarily in a group, or with your, you know, in person with your provider. Maybe I'd like to think so, but it's really about this at home piece that I felt like a lot of women were falling through the cracks. So that's what I offer. That's why it's just so important to support people out there.
Mm.
Like you said, it just makes sense
Yeah,
to
and
me.
it makes sense. It makes logical sense in a kind of very emotional, emotive environment where people are not validated, not listened to, not heard, held even. And when you can meet somebody where they're at, it's a bit of a twee statement, isn't it? Meet them where they're at. So that's an emotional meeting, I suppose, and then suggest logic and kind of
Right.
challenge beliefs and integrate new logical, safer mechanisms for the person to
Right.
kind of take responsibility for and join in with. Then that's where our roles really, whether we work with one person or a group of 10, once you get the patterns in place, you can almost step away, can't you?
Yeah. I mean, that is the idea, right? To work ourselves out of a job,
Yeah.
right? We're not wanting to create a system where you always need me, but we do know that we are social creatures and like we do need networks.
Mm.
And I can be a placeholder for that. And our groups can be a placeholder for that if someone chooses to do the group route. But ultimately, it is about creating a solution that works for the person at home in their life. But that takes time, right? I've definitely like even pitched this to investors, right? Like, isn't this something that needs to be integrated into the system? And it takes more time to uncover somebody's like personal pain combination. Um, and that's not as like trendy as an app or like learn a stretch or take a supplement, right? This is the hard work but the meaningful work in my opinion that I can't not do.
Yeah.
I
And
have to do this.
you have proof, and I have proof that people can recover completely. And it doesn't mean that everyone should aim to recover completely, but the possibility exists, doesn't it? You have sound evidence of people recovering pretty much from every condition that's been
Yeah.
presented to you.
Yeah.
And
Definitely. I mean, even just quality of life, right? We can even just look at the quality of life and keep working towards recovery. And everyone's recovery looks different, right? Like you might have somebody that still experiences flares or pain, but that gets less and less and less and less. Those peaks and valleys are less and less,
mm,
or that quality of life shifts. I mean, it's unrealistic to think that somebody won't have pain again or in the future. Um, and that's not what we're going for.
yeah, it's not no
Recovery
pain.
is, yeah,
It's
yep,
no persistent pain, no persistent patterns of pain, but based on beliefs that are just not founded in science. And because some people think, oh, I'll never feel pain again. Absolutely not. You'll feel emotional pain and physical pain tomorrow or in a week or in 10 years.
right,
And if you can become resilient to move through that with whatever support you need at the time, it'll run its course. You'll have a scar that tells you damaged your knee and a pain in your chest to remind you that you lost someone that you loved. So this is going to happen.
yep,
But if we're unsupported or maybe don't have the skill set to know how to create compassionate boundaries to recover, it's not our fault and not anybody's fault when they drop into habitual, instinctual patterns. We just help them
right,
do what humans should be able to do.
right. Yeah, to live their best life and to, like you said, build that pain
Mm.
resiliency. I mean, I think about I'm so thankful that I mean, I'm not so thankful that that injury, but obviously it's been pivotal for my
Mhm.
career, but
Yeah.
also like as it related to how I handled future
Mm.
pain. Like I mentioned, I had two ginormous babies. Um, almost both of them were around 11 pounds. And I um I was so scared. I was so scared of the birthing process. And I chose a natural birth. I chose to have that experience of having babies outside of the hospital. And because I knew that my fear of this process was driving it, I was able to seek out help. I had recovered from a major injury. I knew that my body could do this. I actually signed up for hypnobirthing. So, without going down a whole nother rabbit hole, but it was really just addressing my habits and my beliefs and how I was experiencing um, this pain, that for, just carrying that amount of baby, and doing it twice. I ended up breaking my tailbone twice in labor, and like all sorts of like other things that happened, but I was also able to recover from that. So not only have like a lovely birthing process because my fear was in check and I knew how to seek that help, but also to recover from multiple injuries, surgeries, and things after those births. And so I feel like it was a skill that makes me confident in my resiliency to everything, to literally everything. Like
Mm.
I feel truly that I'm going to land on my feet in this economy, or like all the things, because this experience that I had can't be taken away from me. I have this resiliency um, around that. So I don't know if that makes sense, but
It makes absolute sense. You are
yes.
perfectly qualified to deliver the service you've already pitched up at, definitely.
Thank you. Yeah.
And beyond that, I'm sure if a man knocked on your door and said, "Could you help me?" I'm sure you wouldn't turn away, would you?
I would actually, right? That is
Oh,
our journey as providers, like knowing what who we work best
but
with. I
one
mean, my
day
website is all geared towards
I'll do the mails.
there you go. But I would never leave anyone hanging. I would definitely, everyone I have a conversation with or a phone call, I
Ah,
connect them with a guide, right?
ah,
I would
that's
never
good.
leave anyone hanging. But yeah, I'm passionate about working with women.
I love it. I love it. Can I
Yeah.
ask you? I know you've made lots of pictures. Could I ask you if you were to elevate? Let me just say, I draw three takeaways you'd love someone to pick up from listening to you.
Uh, yeah, I thought about this, and it was a good challenge to whittle it down to three, because there are so many things um, that are just key. But I think number one, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, but I would want someone to hear that recovery is possible. I was working with somebody the other day, and we were talking about some goals, and I just said, you know what? I want for you to be able to sit on a hard surface and not be scared. And she was like, gosh, her tailbone, like for right now, like I can't even touch, or like she can't even touch her own pelvis, her own tail. Like there's so much fear around this injury that's happened 20 plus years ago.
Oh,
So she's
wow.
been in pain every day for the last 20 years. We've only had a couple sessions, but it's been amazing so far. And she was like, thank you so much for saying that. No one has like even thought about, we don't want to have false hope, but to like give them, like, I know that recovery is possible. You should be able to sit on any surface that you want. Um, and so that was profound for her. So I hope that people hear, like, it's not about pain management, it's about pain recovery, and that is possible. So it's about finding their own pain combination. That's what I call it. And that's also going to change from day to day, month to month. And that's sort of leads me to my next piece of like patience and persistence is a key part of this. I wish that there was like a fast, sexy way to recover from pain that happened overnight, but it's not there. And I think that actually having a guide is imperative. And maybe that's someone in their life, maybe that's a counselor, maybe that's a PT, but I really feel like having a guide is crucial for unwinding these patterns, because we can't always see them in ourselves. Um, and then third, I guess I would say that what we know from pain is that it's not one thing that got you there. So it was not the dishwasher that happened. There were so many other things that around that. And in that vein, that's likely not going to be one thing that is going to like be the solution for someone. And so it takes trial and error. It takes like a human centered approach, and I mean, sadly, I often get people that are at the end, like feel like they're at the end of their journey, that they've tried everything, right? But I would say that it's not often going to be like one stretch or one pill or one session. You know, it is a multidisciplinary, multimodal, unique combination that works. So
Mm.
those are my three things I hope that someone would hear or take away, or that I want someone to know from this.
Even if they grasp just one of them, though, that's enough chink in the curiosity piece to think, "Oh, this might be for me." So I'm very grateful of your time, Steph. It's been fascinating chatting with you, and hopefully anybody watching, I'll put all your contact details on, and maybe your website, a link to this, and then they can contact you in their own time and inquire a bit more. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect. I'm happy to. I offer a free 20-minute conversation. So it's like no pressure, just exploration. If I'm not a fit for someone, I probably know someone who is. And so, yeah, my goal is to just help someone along their journey, whether it's me or someone else. But clearly, I love this stuff and love supporting people. So I'm happy to do that.
No, thank you very much. Thanks.